Hey everybody, I'm Paul Wilkie.
And I'm David Oro, and you're listening to The Embargoed, the greatest PR podcast of all time.
Damn straight. There's always something to talk about and a point to make.
And we're going to do it when we want, which is usually every other week.
Whether it's tech, business, sports, music, or your mama, we're going to cover it.
All of it comes from the point of view of public relations, reputation, and communications. Today is Thursday, November 3rd, 2022. I'm David Oro, and I got my co-host here, Paul Wilkie. Paul, it has been a while, dude. Like, I've been, I don't know if it's you or if it's me, it's neglecting it, but it's been kind of a busy 2 months for myself. I don't know about you. How's it going?
It's been a busy time. It's, you kind of expect sort of coming out of summer things to ramp up, and we've seen that a little bit, but, personal life, work life, it's full on right now, man.
No, it is. And so here's how I see it. Summer was kind of slow for me. First of all, I got COVID in the summer. I think I might have mentioned that before. And it just seemed quiet. And then everybody goes on vacation. But it is the classic, okay, I think all the adults, working adults with kids, took some summertime off. And then everybody throws the conference between September and Christmas break. And it's a busy time for us. It's like literally the busy time for us.
Yeah. And before you know it, now we're scrambling to get everything done before the holiday window sort of shuts down between end of this month, Thanksgiving, and through the new year.
It's almost been 2 months since we talked. I think our last guest was Andy Abramson.
That's right.
And I think the thing is, we do this whenever we feel like it. We're trying to do every other week. Since that time, I went on my first business trip and my first conference basically since January of 2020. In January 2020, I went to CES, and the rest of the time I've been planting my butt in front of this computer and not meeting people or seeing anything. So like business is back in work. I went to Boulder, Colorado for a client, and then I went to CubeCon Detroit for a client and did an actual trade show. You can get photos now that are woke as well as transparent. So basically, you can get a he, she, him, her, they sticker for your badge. And then you get a red, green, yellow sticker saying green, come give me a hug, right? Yellow means like kind of stay away, maybe give me a fist bump. And red is like stay 6 feet away with me, a mask, and put on a bubble suit. And that's how you rolled in these conferences. And I thought that was pretty fascinating.
I was at a concert last night, and the guy in a full mariachi costume just gave me a fist bump. I'm like, all right, no colored badge needed there.
No. All right, dude. So we haven't talked in a while. There's one thing going on in the tech world, and we were going to dedicate this show to just parts of it. And I'm calling it Twexit, and I got this.
I like that. To take out the Brexit analogy, we're talking all things Twitter and Elon Musk today.
I got to give it up for Joe McKendrick. He's, journalist, analyst, good guy all around. He actually replied to that, and I was like, that's a great name, Twexit, right? Mm-hmm. So is it Twitter, Elon Musk? Are people leaving? Will I leave? Will you leave? How important is this whole thing?
It's so fascinating because you're dealing with, at least from our perspective, you're dealing with social media in general, and you're looking at an impactful social media platform. I've got so many places to go with this. And the first is, it's interesting that last year and the year before, everyone was beaten up on Facebook. And now everyone's kind of looking real close at Twitter. And the beatdown is beginning. Commentary, you throw Elon Musk into the mix, it becomes interesting. And then let's save this one for later. But the thing I find fascinating is while these two have been sort of duking it out for like who's wearing the black hat in the world, LinkedIn has slowly over the last 3 or 4 years been sort of inching its way and owning the social media space on the business side. So we'll talk about that from the business side a little later. But where do you want to start with Musk and Twitter, David?
Well, let's start with, I think people have the right to be a little bit fearful, right? Because it was pretty nasty 2016, 2020, this whole election thing and what rode that. And I think there's a fear for that in general. And then that's, on the opposite end of that, these free speech absolutists, if you will, that you can say whatever you want. And I don't know if that's right either. And I think that's the scary part of this whole thing is exactly what will this be? I don't know. But I'll tell you this, I have looked into how to delete and deactivate the Twitter app if I need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also looked at alternatives. I looked at Mastodon, which is an alternative. Washington Post gave some alternatives. I love the Washington Post alternative ideas. In addition to alternative digital consumer products, you could use like Mastodon. Hopefully I'm saying that right. You could do things like read the news on an old school website. Right? Or you could use something like I use, which is Feedly, an RSS reader, right? Or you can go you get expertise from places that like Substack or Medium, or forge personal relationships. Could you imagine that? Maybe use Signal or your text messages to create, lines. And then there's Reddit, right? Obviously, you could choose other communities like Facebook groups, etc. But if in a lot of ways, you can get what you can get off of Twitter. What I like about Twitter is I follow people and they share stuff that I know I'm not going to come across. And that's sometimes what I click on. And that's kind of what I like. I do also like it for breaking news. In a time of crisis, I will use it for breaking news. But even when I watch sports, I'll get commentary on there while sports is happening. Not at a game, but like at home watching TV between commercials.
I've got a soft spot for Twitter now, and I'll give you this anecdote. I know I've told you this before. When Upright started 10 years ago, we actually got our first client through Twitter. I was setting up TweetDeck, which I'm not even sure exists anymore. But I was setting TweetDeck up to monitor the hashtag IPOPR. So public relations around IPOs. And I would say this was like the first day I hung the shingle out of the door. And I was setting that up, and not within an hour, there was someone who put a tweet out there, anyone have any IPO experience? And I responded, and that was our first client. So, Twitter built my business. But it was interesting. Our head of operations asked me yesterday, said, when do we pull the plug on working, using Twitter or working with Twitter? And I would say we're not there yet, but it's a good question to ask from a PR perspective. When do you stop working with a social media platform?
Well, what are you going to do, Paul? How are you guys thinking about this?
I look at it from a day-to-day operational, how we advise our client. Now we don't do social media. That's the first thing. I always tell potential clients, we don't do social media. We have a social media firm that we partner with. They're very good at what they do. We build it into our retainer or our project fees, because leave these things to the professionals. But these days, because we do a lot of B2B, we do a lot on LinkedIn. We do a lot on Twitter. We do a little on Facebook, not a ton, and marginal amount on Instagram, and nothing on the Truths and the Parlors of the world. And, I don't even count those.
TikTok? Are you a TikToker?
We're not doing TikTok. Again, we sort of look at TikTok as a more B2C or a C2C platform, but I think that's changing. To answer your question, when do you start putting the red flag on a social media platform? I think it depends on what's going on. And from a business perspective, you have to raise the question. Is there stability at the top of the company? And that raises privacy concerns. It raises security concerns. It's like that Musk is going to lay off half of the staff. So what is that going to do to the platform?
So here's what I would say. I would take a wait and see approach. Okay. If it's going to get crazy, you're going to know it and you're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
Right now, the utility and the platform that I continue to use, that I that I like for purposes around, news, right? Either tech news, Ukraine news, or sports news, whatever I'm following at that time frame. So you just wait and see. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing happens. You just continue to use it.
Yeah.
Maybe if you want a blue check mark, you can do that. But changes is afoot. I think, one of the things that you'd put up in our notes was, do you trust where Twitter is going? And this is where somebody like Elon, right, is just like, as much as he makes him as a personality, right? He doesn't work with comms people or anything like that. He just does his own thing. You got to give credit to where credit is due, right? Like any little kid growing up in the world would love to launch spaceships, make fancy cars, right? And dig a tunnel in the ground, like do all the things that he's doing, right? Like he's got little kid dreams in big boy ways. And whatever, I don't know what his plans are for Twitter. Obviously, he really values it at the tune of $44 billion. SNL had a great joke over the weekend.
This week, Elon Musk officially bought Twitter for $44 billion, beating out the next highest offer of $0.
Well, I mean, that there's something to be said in that joke, because he ended up with Twitter. He didn't want it. He was working hard to not have to buy it, and he's stuck with it. So the next question is, what the hell is he going to do? I mean, are we looking at a tempest in a teacup right now? Or 2 months down the road, is he going to sell the thing off, or kill it, or turn it into something else? And this discussion we're having today is going to be moot. He didn't cut his teeth in social media. It's not his forte. I'm fascinated by the fact 5 years ago he was the darling of Silicon Valley in terms of what he's done, with the PayPal mafia and Tesla and SpaceX and all of this stuff. And now, even depending on where you are on the political spectrum, he's either still a darling or a pariah.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's the unknown is really, and like nobody likes the unknown. Like change is one thing, unknown change is another thing, right? And so this is like taking it from a public company to have this sort of trajectory of sort of a business that they missed out on capitalizing on the power of social media. So they weren't as successful as they were, but yet here it was, and it became valuable, as Trump came onto the platform, right, and to get the word out there. You could see how valuable it can become. And now it's private and public, and people, it's evolved into something. We may regress on that, and it's unknown what's going to happen, and that's scary. And one of those unknowns is what Elon Musk does to companies. One of the best things I read about this whole thing was, it actually came out on SiliconANGLE. It was a guest column by Joe Hickman. It's called "Dear Twitter Employees, Welcome to a New World." And it was really aimed at the employees who've probably suffered the worst on this whole acquisition, right? Talk about unknown. They have no clue, right? Yeah. And even if they survive it, how much harder are they going to work and things like that. And, Joe goes through this whole thing about, he's mortal, at least for now. He's got a lot to do. But really talks about how he manages things, and he doesn't really care for your feelings. He cares about the mission of the project, and that in a lot of ways you're going to work harder if you're there. You're either going to suck it up and work harder than you ever had, and be rewarded for that through the mission of the company, or you're just going to get out of there, right? And either way, you're going to be fine, right? Either if you're fired or not, or if you make it through there. It was a really telling thing, I think that has to come through here. And that's what I'm semi-excited about, even though I don't know, like if it becomes this free speech absolutist kind of way, I think he loses it all, right? I think advertisers walk. I think people like me walk. Celebrities are already walking, right? I'm not walking because Elon's taking care of this, but I'm like, oh, hey, what's going on? But the other thing too is you got to think about, does it remain relevant? right? So Paul, you talked about LinkedIn being the place for business. It is a valuable place for there. Like people are kind of hanging out there and sharing tips and tricks and stuff, keeping you top of mind. Their algorithm seems to be very strong in terms of getting you visibility in terms of the right people. Like when I post some stuff on with regards to communications, at least on the profiles that I see, they're hitting the right people on the analytics side. Like, oh yeah, that's who I want to hit, the CEO, the leader, or the PR professional. It tells me things like that. Twitter doesn't. Twitter tells you the number of reads and the location and stuff, but the reach on LinkedIn is pretty strong.
Yeah. I also think because it's a work business platform, I think people do a better job of policing themselves. I think on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, people are okay letting their freak flag fly, and with LinkedIn, it's like, okay, these are my work peers. These are people I'm trying to do business with. And I think people are a bit more, not conservative, but a bit more cautious about what they put out there. And they sort of ask, is it relevant? And maybe that's the future of social media. Maybe there are different platforms. Maybe you have a platform, you've seen that meme where it's like on Instagram, I'm this, on Facebook, I'm this. And those haven't been hard and fast rules, but maybe that's going to change where, for my sports stuff, I'm going to go on, JockeyNet, and business is LinkedIn, and my political stuff's going to be on Parler or Twitter or whatever, and then Facebook's going to be the family stuff.
Right.
And maybe that's going to be the case.
So are we on Twitter? For me, it really is a digestion thing. I think of just getting news, but there are actual real influencers on there. Like
yeah,
brands are brands influential on there. I think some of them are, but it's not like one client I have is Docker, and they use it all the time. But their audience is really big on Twitter. Developers are really big on Twitter.
Yeah.
Developers share how to code and how to do tutorials on Twitter. They practically live on Twitter, right? But if you take it outside of that, maybe there's some other industries that are really conversating on Twitter. I don't know.
Right.
And just on the brand side, Wendy's would probably be the one that I can continue to think of. They're very super snarky and just on point and biting in terms of what their brand should be, particularly online, which is different from the brand that they sell on commercials.
Yeah.
But I think the days of using influencer as the platform to communicate something for a brand or a company, it's going to be hard to move up that ladder. I think there's other places to do that.
Let's do this. I'm gonna kind of put you through a lightning round on some questions that I have.
Oh, what? I get to play a game?
Yeah, we're gonna play a game. Quick game. 3 questions. So, first question, would you advise any of your clients, CEOs, or will you buy blue check status on Twitter anytime in the near future?
No.
Okay. Why?
It's $8 a month. $6 a year.
That's a lot for a blue check. It doesn't really
do it. For a blue check. I got to see what's wrapped around, whether services are around that. And I understand algorithms will be better for you. But right now, I will not make that investment because I don't know where the platform is headed, right? If the platform turns into free speech absolutist, I'm wasting $8 a month. If it gets better over time, I'm going to go buy a blue check. But you know what? It's a weird economic. It's something that he needs to try. I've never paid for social media, but I have paid because I am the product, right?
You pay for LinkedIn?
I did once on the training, not necessarily the leads, but I did do the training. You had some really rich training on there, and I wanted to take them all, but I just don't have the time. Yeah, so they have really good LinkedIn is actually pretty cool if you want to be a business dork all day long and just go to work 24/7.
Indeed.
That's my answer on blue. I think that's a reasoned answer.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. I've always said I would love to have a blue check, but I'm not enough to pay for it. I was happy to jump through the hoops to like sort of apply. I did that a few years back. I didn't get it because I've got like 3 followers. But so here's my second predictive question. This is a prediction. Is Elon Musk still owning Twitter this time next year?
Yes. Yeah. He is. This is a couple-year project, and in a couple years, it's flailing bad, and it's the worst purchase he's ever made in his life. Or he is turning it around, prepping it for a re-entry into a public market so he can get his $44 billion back. I just can't imagine it having that valuation unless ad dollars are just flying in like crazy, or subscriptions. It's a lot of money, $44 billion, for the amount of users that they have. Yeah.
All right. Third question. Will Twitter have a board this time next year? Or is it just going to be Elon like it is now? To recap, he fired his board last week. Said,
I think he has a very expensive toy that he owns, and then he's got a bunch of buddies telling him what to do and giving him advice on it on Twitter.
I think that's a smart way of looking at Elon owning Twitter. And maybe it is a toy for him. Maybe he has fun with it. Once you've played with the rockets and the electric car, what do you play with next? What's your new toy?
You play with humanity and influencing them through social media to see what happens when they do it, right?
Hey.
Push a button, So,
I feel like we've talked about this before, but let's put our PR hats firmly on. If you're advising Elon Musk right now from a PR perspective,
you don't get to do that, Paul. By the way,
no, I know this
nobody
is the
does that
discussion you can possibly have because he won't listen. But if there's
he'll listen. It just doesn't value your input as a comms professional.
And those are the best clients to have, aren't they?
Yeah.
So if you could give him one piece of advice that he would take, what would it be?
Do it right.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm going to leave that to him. You know what's right from. I'm going to trust he knows what's right from wrong. Right. Yeah. And the public will know what's right from wrong. That's what it is, and then that just really speaks to his ability to show integrity, right, and values. Where will that lie? It's yours now. Do it. Just do it right. And it could be doing right is obviously making money, right? Mm-hmm. Optimizing the platform, right? Who knows, right? Half of Twitter could be decided to. It's probably the right call to fire them all, right? There's a lot of bloat in tech companies. I've seen it, Paul. You walked in it. We've had a whole decade of just hire everybody, man, and then also give everybody free food, gym, and unlimited time off. Yeah. This is a weird time because these global issues that are happening, son, and then we had the pandemic. It's a whole new world. And for the first time in a long time, since even before the dot-com bust, when dot-com bust was tiny, this is the first time in 20 years that I think tech has taken a hit. I mean, look at the valuations of all tech companies, Apple, Amazon, and particularly Facebook, right? They've lost billions of dollars in value. Even in the 2008 Great Recession, we were humming, right? Technology sector was like, okay, well, the whole world's falling apart. Mortgages are falling apart. Everybody has no money. Well, let's invent cloud computing, right? And let's start something new on that. And we had a whole decade of growth in social media, et cetera. This is different.
I think the one thing Musk recognizes and is doing right is recognize, like you said, this is a time to reset. Post-pandemic, we don't need to be bloated. I questioned when I forget where I read it. I think it was Axios last night. Musk, Elon's expected to cut the workforce by 50%, and the people that are back are going to be back in the office. 100% of the time. I'm a big believer in working from home. I think you get good work out of the right people. I always question when CEOs sort of in a blanket statement say, everyone needs to be in the office. I always question that, but like I said, now's the time to reset. And I think it's if you're coming into a company as a CEO, now is a good time to come in and sort of lay down new rules and new standards. The one thing I would say, which is ironic, because I asked you what as a PR person would you advise Elon to do? The one thing I would do is I would advise, this is something I've advised CEOs for 10 years now, is be careful what you post on social media. We saw with the blue check thing where he's like, how do you feel about paying $20 for this? No, okay, no. Well, how about $8? It's like, do your thinking internally before thinking on social media.
But come on now, isn't that a little bit refreshing, right? You get real-time feedback. This guy's getting real-time product feedback, right? Do we have to roll it up, in a cloak of business process decision making, right? If he's on a whim, like, let's do it, right? He threw it out there, it was $20, and now it's $8.
I like tech companies to at least have the veneer of thinking things through,
Yeah. What is $44 billion divided by 8? How many of those does he need every month to get his money back, right?
Oof. God.
Listen, I think on Twitter and all this stuff, as long as it was crazy before, right? Like if it does, as long as it doesn't get to that stage and they improve the product, I'll continue to see value in it. But it's been fascinating to watch. I think the media is having a field day with it. The public's having a field day with it because
it's popcorn worthy. It's just crazy.
It's Elon all the time, right? So.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's almost with Trump out of office, he's sort of that fix of crazy leadership has kind of like migrated over to him. And maybe that's what he wants. And maybe that's what he absorbs. I mean, someone's got to be the big baddie in WWE, right? And why not Elon Musk?
Yeah. Anyways, Paul, that's our talk today. It's been a while,
It has.
We'll leave everybody with that. We won't suffer people through all the other kinds of stuff that we're dealing with.
Well, a little bit of housekeeping. What I'd love to do now that we're back, we're going to be back on a regular cadence.
We are.
We're going to try. So let's do this. So this is an open call to our listeners and our viewers. If there's a topic you want us to cover, if there's someone you want us to have on as a guest, drop us a note. What's our email address for reaching us now? Do we have
hit us up on Twitter.
hit us up on Twitter.
Hit us up on Twitter at the Embargoed.
Also we have a new address on YouTube. We are now youtube.com/@Embargoed. We're at the Embargoed. Again, I will put this under so you can.
Oh, is that YouTube handle thing that was going on?
Yeah. I sorted that out the other day.
Yeah.
So
thanks for paying attention to that, Paul. I wasn't.
No problem. So just like the youngins, don't forget to hit like and subscribe.
Yeah.
But yeah, so welcome back. Glad we're hitting the autumn and end of year full speed, and we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks.
All right, y'all. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.